You're listening to The Real Well Show with Kathy Fedke, the real estate investor's resource.
Our guest on The Real Well Show today started investing during the pandemic, which was a pretty scary time to do just about anything. And today, with all the frightening headlines out there, she is still actively acquiring rental properties. And she's an engineer, and engineers don't generally jump into things they don't understand. So today, we're going to find out what she's been focusing on and what kind of data has helped her make her decisions. I'm Kathy Fedke, and welcome to The Real Well Show. Ranjani Ravi is an engineer by education and a seasoned environmental professional, but she took the leap into real estate when she lost her job, and today she has no regrets. So let's find out why. Ranjani, welcome to The Real Well Show.
Thank you, Kathy. It's such an honor, and I'm so excited to finally get to meet you.
Likewise. So tell me about your journey from India to where are you now in Seattle?
Yeah, so I'm currently in Kirkland, in the
Okay.
suburbs of Seattle. But yeah, I moved to United States in 2011 when I was just 21, and I came here to pursue my master's in environmental engineering. So when you are back in India and you're graduating, there are only a couple of options. Either you have to be an engineer, a doctor. So real estate is definitely not one of those options. And when I moved here, I really wanted to make a difference in the world of remediation because I had been to a couple conferences in China and had seen how much of the waste goes into water and, how much things need to be changed. So I was super excited to move here, and I got the opportunity to work at EPA, which is like a dream location for any of the environmental people. And we also got to work on an essay which was to detect norovirus in environmental waters, easy testing kit, which today it makes so much sense because of all the COVID strains we saw. And I think it was a great journey when I moved here. Yeah.
Well, how did you go from the EPA to real estate?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked all the time. And to be very honest, when I got married, my husband was working in Seattle. So I moved to the first company that would hire me for environmental. And although there are very limited opportunities, I must say, in Seattle compared to other parts. But what happened was, the EPA funding started declining. The then government started doing a lot of funding cuts, and my company started laying off people. So I met this person at a New Year's party who told me that, she was in real estate and she thought I was a good fit. I should think about it because, we used to do a lot of phase one assessments and due diligence. So she said, this market is something you should think about. And honestly, that was the last thing I was thinking of. I was just going to apply to other places, but I took it seriously and I got my license and started off on my own, like little by little. And within, the market was great. And I was able to bring to my clients, more than an average agent because, of my engineering background. We were able to give them the due diligence and all the information, which really helped them. So it took off. And, I think that's been the best decision I've made till date.
It's amazing how quickly you can rise to the top in real estate if you take it seriously, like you said,
Right.
by giving great customer service to your clients and really understanding your market. And wow, getting in at the right time was probably helpful too. It's been a
Yes,
hot market there in Seattle.
absolutely.
I'm curious, in such a hot market, were you helping buyers or sellers? I mean, how has that
Right.
been over the past couple of years?
So honestly, when I started out, obviously I started off as a buyer's agent, and it also helped because, we were all in the home buying phase. And when I before I got my license, and when my husband and I were even thinking to buy a condo, when we met somebody, it was such an overwhelming experience, like all the things that they said you need to do. So initially, it started off as a buyer's agent, and then I was slowly able to build my own team. And now we definitely help buyers and sellers, and we have helped over 300 families. So it's been a great journey so far. But again, I make sure we have that one-on-one connection with each of my clients. So I think that's something that helps us stand out, because the current market is pretty competitive. So you definitely need to have something that makes your clients come back to you again.
Yeah, I mean, how would you win the bid if there were multiple offers?
Right. So I think in the Seattle market, we are also bombarded with a lot of cash offer buyers. So
Mhm.
in that, what we do is we make our clients go through a rigorous due diligence process. So we make sure they are not just like pre-qualified, they are pre-approved, they are underwritten by the lenders, so that when they are putting in an offer, they are much more qualified than an average buyer, because the sellers know that this person is going to close. And we also get them to do like a pre-inspection, make sure they know what they are getting into, so they are not backing off. So whatever helps them to come across as a strong buyer, and obviously good communication, because we are supposed to translate trust within under a minute, whether it's with our clients or with the sellers on the other side, because we hardly get to meet them. And with COVID, honestly, everything has been online, so that made it even more challenging. But I think the key is transparency, and having the best for our clients at the back of our mind. That really helped us scale our uh, numbers here.
Are you starting to see a slowdown with the interest rates up? I know Seattle.
Definitely.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah. So I
Seattle
was
is.
reading an article like the top 10 cooling markets. So I think San Jose and Sacramento and Seattle is number 4 on that list. So definitely there's a lot of slowdown. And obviously it has shaken the builders and buyers' confidence too. A lot of people want to know if they should pull out of new construction agreements that they are currently under contract in, because they are hearing all these news about layoffs and recession. And that's where I feel watching your show, and I follow Logan, and so I think we need to give them the information, because there's so much that they are bombarded with. And in current
Mm.
times, it's very important to discern what's correct information. And honestly, I tell all my clients that real estate is the best way to hedge against inflation. So if they are going to live in that home for coming 5 to 10 years, they should still be good, because the rents are not getting any lower here either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, at least you can
yeah,
lock in a fixed rate and not get kicked
right.
out of the house if the owner decides they want to live there or sell it. There's a
Exactly.
lot more control, so many advantages. All right, and
Exactly.
then what got you into the investor side of real estate?
Yeah, so honestly, it was something. So we had just bought our condo with great difficulty, and and honestly, as you know, Seattle prices are crazy. So then we had some extra, well, thanks to the market, and we wanted to see how we could grow it or get in to make some cash flow. And that's when I stumbled upon your podcast, and it was the perfect timing. It was my 30th birthday, and I got your book, Retire Rich with Rentals, and I devoured it over the weekend. And I was telling my husband, this is the way to go. So we started watching all the webinars and trying to find out what markets we would fit in. And honestly, doing that from so far away, and with COVID, you could not visit any of those places. So our first thought was, we both went to school in Ohio. So we should think about Ohio. And we got in touch with one of the teams, and they were really great. They gave us all these options. And honestly, the thing that we had to learn was we are not buying it for ourselves. So we have
Hmm.
to think from the renter's perspective, because you're like, these homes are like 1900s built, right? And here we are used to seeing much newer inventory. So it was one of those things where we decided that it would help us to, think about being job optional down the road. And this was definitely one of the ways to get started. And especially currently, I feel more people should get in with the stock markets doing the dive and the current market being in a state of flux. This is the,
Hmm.
it's kind of a slow, and maybe some people would call it boring way, but it's a steady way.
Yeah, absolutely. Buy the dip.
Mhm.
And with so much fear out there, you can negotiate good prices for purchasing real estate as well. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad you started in Ohio in during the pandemic, because that area just took off. We saw rents go up, I don't know, 20% in the Cincinnati area. Did you
Yeah.
experience that?
A little bit, but it was kind of interesting because, we started seeing the rents come in, and we were like, okay, this is the right way to go. And suddenly one day we get in the mail that, your tenants are to be evicted. We were like,
Oh,
God, what happened? We were partly feeling bad and at the same time trying to get hold of the situation. But by then, the management team and everybody is like, so quick and fast. They had another tenant in place.
wow. Oh my gosh. How
So
quick did the eviction go?
honestly, I think it took less than 20 days. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And that was the time when my current clients, in Washington, who were buying their investment properties, were struggling so hard because the laws are so different here. So even to get a date to get a eviction notice, like, is so hard. So definitely, that was an interesting thing we learned. So yeah, here and there we have some things that need to be fixed. I think that's a common issue, but overall, the properties are doing well. They bring in around 6 to 8%, which is a great investment in my head. Yeah.
Oh, good. And then you also then focused on, let's see, Atlanta or Birmingham?
So in Florida, yeah.
Florida.
So we thought about Florida because we were like, we wanted to tap into markets where a lot of people were moving in. And, I remember watching your, quarterly report where you talk about the moving data, like
Hmm.
people were moving to all these places. So yeah, we talked to our investment counselor, and he suggested Florida, Alabama would be all, great markets to get in. And Alabama, especially, with NASA having so much of activity happening there. And that's a great place with a lot of smart people and, less homes available.
Hmm. Yes.
Right? So yeah, Ocala was one of the other markets in Florida where we invested. So we were initially pretty hesitant because it was not one of those, coastal area like
Hmm.
Miami and all the fun places. But honestly, this place has also seen a pretty good 10 to 15% growth, which has been awesome. So, working our way through and getting that confidence so that we can translate this to my own clients, because we want to practice before we preach and help them get into this way, because once they buy their first home, they get used to that process, and now they have the money to keep doing this over and over.
Yes, it can become addictive.
Yeah.
So I do like the inland of Florida. Coastal markets are nice to visit, but when investing, being a little away from the ocean, away from the hurricanes, I think is nice. Plus, the insurance is a little bit lower. Did you find that to
Definitely
be true?
lower. Yes,
Hmm.
that's definitely lower. And honestly, in these markets, they are having a lot of growth happening. They are building like a new Toyota factory, and so much of activity is happening. So I think it will be more of a stable income group other than just the the empty nesters or the people who go there for just the beaches. So it's, even though it may not, increase in price, but over a period of time, it'll be a steady growth.
I'm curious, with your background in environmental engineering, is that
Yes,
right?
that's right.
You chose Florida, which, has, as people say, is going to be underwater. So tell me your thoughts
Right.
about that.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That was my first question, and I started, looking into all the data to see what year the water is gonna rise, and
Right.
so that's why I was kind of making sure we are not super close to the coast. So a lot of the places, Sarasota and all these locations are pretty good locations, but I think that's what our counselor Joe really helped. And as I was telling you, I've read his book in and out on the mistakes you can make as an investor and what is the due diligence that you need to do. So he has a chapter on how to make sure and what are the websites, USGS websites that you have to look into to make sure. And honestly, these are investment properties that are, I'm not going to keep it for the next 30 years. So I think the next 10 years, they should be good and not underwater. I hope so.
Where do you find that data? I know I saw flood maps before, but I can't seem to find that website. But I
Right.
remember when looking, I was very surprised to see that there's a lot of parts of Florida that
Mhm.
seemingly will be unaffected, at least according to those maps. So yeah,
Right.
what do you look at?
So basically, there is, the USGS data. They have like a radius map, which basically you put in the address and the zip code, and it will kind of give you, uh, year by year estimation of where the water level would be. And also, I use the FEMA maps as well, which we get access to as realtors. So we are able to see the areas which would fall in the 100-year flood zone or the much greater radius. So keeping both in mind, and I think nowadays Redfin is also able to plug in that data into their portal, which kind of tells you is it at a low or a moderate or a high risk area. So I think when you combine all of this together, you get a pretty good idea of what might happen, at least in the immediate future. Yeah.
I find it so interesting that Miami was one of the fastest growing cities this past year.
Mhm.
And that's a known thing that they've had issues with flooding and, sea rise. So
Right.
why do you think that is? And especially a lot of financial companies from New York are moving to Miami. I mean,
Right.
we even, saw, well, anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Would you buy in
I think
Miami?
that's the craze, right? Like when you think about, especially a lot of my clients. So in Seattle, so many of my clients moved to Florida, they moved to Arizona, and most of the older folks. So I think they want to have the sunshine for sure. And they feel that with COVID, the overall mindset has shifted to, just live your life in the present because anything could happen. So you want to enjoy that sun and sand, and you've been to those places. So you want to kind of recreate those memories, for
Hmm.
yourself. And I think since a lot of the population move there, it'll take time, but other parts of these states will also see that boom, right? Because these places have obviously gone a lot in rent. Like Arizona has one of the highest rents growth that has happened. So once these places reach their max, then the other places like Ocala would probably be the one people will be flocking to.
That was my thought too. Central Florida, man, that's, if there's
Right.
hurricanes, that's where people want to move to.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I did find it interesting and a little bit humorous that Nancy Pelosi moved, to oceanfront, in Florida. So she must not be too worried either.
Right. I don't know if things will change because at least here, most of the offices like Microsoft, Amazon have started calling their folks back to work. They want them to come at least 3 days a week. So
Oh,
maybe things might change because, work from home now may not be the only way to move forward. So,
well, that is a really good point that you make, and I've seen that as well with. Actually, my daughter's boyfriend just got called back to work, and he said no, he's going to go to Europe and travel. Because yeah, I think people got the taste of freedom, right? And
right,
going to
right.
find a job that offers remote work.
Exactly. And that's why, most of these rentals, I think, did so well because a lot of people, decided to go work from Hawaii for a month or, from all these different places. So they would work during the day and then, explore the area rest of the time, which, works out great. Like you have a perfect work-life balance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it will be interesting to see over the next 6 months how that shifts if people end up
Right,
having to move back to the job
right,
centers like Seattle, San
right.
Francisco, LA, New York, or they put their foot down and say no. I actually
Right.
have very close friends
Mhm,
who worked for Adobe for years, and that's in San Francisco, but he
mhm.
wanted to be in San Diego. That's where he wanted to be, and he
Right,
argued for his position and has been
mhm,
able to do that for 10 years. So I think it
right,
can depend on the company and maybe might require some flights back and forth, but
right,
it will be interesting to see how this affects the short-term rentals if people
right.
aren't able to travel as much and work. I know we have a short-term rental, and that was always the first question is, how's your Wi-Fi? Because they're working from there. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people have even thought that, if this company doesn't allow me to work from home, I'll just switch,
Hmm.
companies. At least that was the mindset in the beginning of the year when a lot of hiring was happening. But now most of the companies are kind of going into a freeze mode. So, maybe
Yeah.
they will have to let go some of those requirements.
Yeah. Well, then, we might see Seattle home prices come back.
Right to the ground.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last tips you'd like to give our listeners who are wondering if now is a good time to invest?
Definitely. So I think, speaking as a fellow, engineer, most of my clients I work with have the analysis paralysis problem. They do all their due diligence, they are, deep dive and everything, but they never pull the trigger.
Mm,
And I think that's so important to get started into the process because, I think especially now when the stock market is plummeting and may go down further, this is such a good way to hedge your money and your investments against inflation and all the issues that we are facing right now. And there is such a big, housing shortage in the US overall. So if they have the position to be landlords at this point in time, I think it's only going to serve them well in the coming years. So definitely, don't be threatened by the whole process. Once you get through it, it just gets more addictive and easy and fulfilling.
yeah, and then as far as rates go, they were much higher when I got started. So, we will
Right,
adjust to these rates, and I don't think they'll stay high forever.
right,
But they are where they have been, and still 5 million homes would sell every year at
exactly.
5, 6, 7, 8% rates. So it happened so quickly. It was a shock to people, but
Yeah.
we're really at
I
very
think we were all
normal.
in our la la land in twos and threes, and most of the
Yeah.
millennials who are buying have never seen any other rate other than that. So for
Yeah.
them, it's a shock when it goes to like 5.5%. And I think the loan application have been at the lowest in the last 22 years or something. So
Mhm.
that definitely shows people are scared. But I guess that's when, that's why I like to do my videos, Sip and Learn, where we try to uncover and give people the knowledge nuggets they need to
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, the numbers have just come out again that prices are up, home prices are up, and of course inflation was up. That
exactly.
means that the Fed's going to probably be more aggressive again to bring that down, but it just shows
Right.
that the fundamentals are there. There's a whole lot of people looking for shelter.
Right.
Yeah.
What would be your thoughts? Do you think people should still continue to invest in 2022?
I think right now could be one of the best times because there is so much fear that,
Right.
there's not all that competition that there was. So now you
Exactly.
have some breathing room. You get to analyze the property you're looking at and,
Right.
to get an inspection and have those things fixed. I mean, it's going back to a healthier market. I
Right.
think the way it has been over the past year was not healthy with people
Right.
buying properties they couldn't even inspect and couldn't negotiate. So I think there's going to be great opportunity over the next year.
Hmm.
And, we're suggesting at Real Wealth that normally we love a 30-year fixed rate mortgage,
Right.
but
Right.
maybe right now a 5-year or 7-year or a 10-year ARM is
Hmm.
a great way to go. That means that the loan is fixed for 5, 7, or 10 years, whatever you get. It's a
Right.
lower rate. It can make the numbers work better. And I
Exactly.
do believe that with the aggressiveness that the Fed is going after fighting inflation,
Hmm.
they'll succeed, at which case they'll slow down the economy enough that there'll be another reversal and rates will go down again. So I really do believe that people will be able to get great deals right now because of the fear out there and because the
Exactly.
increased inventory. We're finally seeing foreclosures again, and
Right. More options for
more
sure.
options,
Yeah.
more inventory. And so now you can get what you want and then refi in a
And
couple
you
of
can
years.
refinance,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's not the end of the world. You can always refinance and
Yep, exactly.
yeah.
Well, great. Well, it's really been a pleasure to have you here on the Real Wealth Show, and I wish you the best of luck in all your real estate ventures.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to finally meet you, and I'm so excited I could do this. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining me here on the Real Wealth Show. If you'd like to get in contact with some of the people that Ranjani worked with at Real Wealth, you can just go to realwealthshow.com, join. It's free if you haven't already. And then you can get in contact with one of our investment counselors that can help you on your journey to building real wealth.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any securities or to make or consider any investment or course of action. For more information, go to realwealthshow.com.